Hello, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to Your Journey with Jennie, and I am Jennie Wallach in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm so excited you are here. Years ago, I learned my passion for sharing and empowering others to discover their possibilities such that they have confidence and make positive changes through big thinking and action taking. Both life and business are a journey, and I'm grateful that you're here on the journey with me. And now to why you're really here today. So over a year ago, I started following our guest, Justin Sua, on Instagram. I was clearly drawn to his positivity and tactical approaches to having a strong mindset and providing the tools to help you do so. So last October, I got to be in a small group coaching with my friend James Shaw had shared Justin with me. And so my husband and I signed up for this high performance parents course. And I'll tell you what, not only did I choose to be a better parent, which we all probably should, I just knew that personally I'd grow from the content and be able to share it with all you guys, which I have. So thank you, Justin. So listen, Justin is the head of mental performance with the Tampa Bay Rays and has tons of previous experience working with professional athletes and business leaders, the U.S. Army and Olympians, young athletes, and even parents. You can follow Justin on all of your favorite social platforms, even catch his podcast called Increase Your Impact. And who doesn't want to do that? So before I turn it over to Justin, I'd like to allow my dear friend Patrick Woods to share a little story of his experience in following and learning from our guest. So take it away, Patrick.
Thank you, Jennie. I feel very blessed that you allowed me to do this. So Justin, a long time ago, you were with the Red Sox way back when, and somehow I went on this ADD bunny trail on Instagram and came across you. And what I was telling Jennie earlier is what was really cool is you have these good days and you have these not so great days. And there's the best analogy I have is those moments when you're sitting in church and you feel like the pastor is talking directly to you. And some of your posts, I'm like, oh my gosh, how did he know I was struggling with that today? And it's just been really cool to pop in. Typically, you're one of the first posts on Instagram, and it's like the perfect message I need to start my day. And I start sharing it on my timeline, my story. And now I'm seeing my friends share it back out there because it's like the ripple effect and the impact that you're making is multiplying. And so just being able to see what you've been doing and the impact that you're having, I think in the business world, I don't want to take up too much time. The business world that we're in, I've always said we need like a sports psychology coach, keep our head in the game. And not because we'll have our streaks and we'll have our slumps. And so you've been a big part of my indirect sports coach, my mental coach through Instagram. And so just thank you for being here. I'm excited to learn from you today. And thank you, Jennie, for allowing me to be a part of this.
I love it. I love it. Well, let's get this party started, Justin. It's all you, and you just let us know what you need. So kick it off.
Okay, sounds good. First of all, Patrick, thanks so much for those really kind words. It's really neat to hear people and how they interact with the different content that goes out there. And Jennie, I'm so grateful that our paths cross and for inviting me to be part of this. Now, I do not know who is on this call, whether you're listening right now in person or you're watching this as a recording down the road, but I'm happy you're here. For you to take some time out of your day to be here and sit here, I hope to be able to provide some kind of strategy or performance. So to give you a little update on what I do as a living, obviously, maybe not obviously, but I always get the question, what is a mental performance coach? Like, what does that involve? Are you a motivational speaker? Are you analyzing my behavior and my actions? And the answer to both of those questions are no. And so basically my job is to help people become the best versions of themselves. Now, when you think that, you're like, okay, so what does that even mean? So the first thing is I want you to think about yourself. Let's say in your job, in your work. Well, let's talk about work. And there are moments, I want you to think about the moment in your life when you were running on all cylinders, when you were the best version of yourself, when it seemed like things were clicking, you were optimizing at a very high level, you were productive, you were focused, you were not lining them up and knocking them down. It just almost seemed effortless. Now, when you were experiencing that version of yourself, there were certain things you were doing and there were certain things you weren't doing that contributed to that. Now, I want you to contrast that with those moments in your life when it just feels like a grind. Your attention isn't there, your confidence is low, your focus is wavering, you're experiencing this imposter syndrome to the point to where you're experiencing paralysis by analysis. You're negative, you're beating up on yourself, you're comparing yourself to other people, and you're just not your best version of yourself. Now, in that state, there are certain things you're doing and certain things you're not doing that contribute to that version of yourself. My job, it's a pretty cool job, is to sit with the best performers in the world, the tip of the spear, the people who are performing in front of millions of people with the high stakes on the line, and to help them identify what helps them be the best version of themselves and what gets in the way of being in the best versions of themselves. Now, here's the interesting thing. It evolves. It changes. Your environment changes. Your circumstance change. You change. Your mindset changes. And so how do you account for all of those things? And so today, I don't plan on being showing up and being this disseminator of truth and knowledge. I'm not this guru who knows everything, which I absolutely do not. I have my wife, my kids in the other room. They can come here and account and tell you that I do not know everything. However, you watching this, you listening to this, you are the hero of this journey. My job is to help you identify the tools you already have and to sharpen them and to polish them and to show you how to apply them to help you be the best version of yourself. Everything that I share has the underpinnings, the foundation of behavioral science. Everything that we talk about is in conjunction with cognitive science, performance psychology, behavioral economics, decision-making sciences, because these aren't just some things that I invented. I don't have the 5 steps on how to be the best version of yourself just based on my experience. No, we need to understand the mechanisms of the brain. How do we work? How do we operate as human beings? And so I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to share these with you. And I'm going to ask you to participate as well. So I see we're going to have a very active chat box, and please participate. You are going to get out of this what you put into this. And even though I can't see all of you, I hope you're there with us every step of the way. So here we go. How to cultivate a high performance mindset. Number 1, here we go. Josie says, we're here. It's showtime. Here we go. What I would like you to do, I would like you to comb over your memory over the course of the past 24 hours. The past 24 hours. Now, a lot of that time was probably spent sleeping. You were some eating in there. But I want you to think about one of the best things that has happened to you in the last 24 hours. Go to that text box and I want you to type it in. One of the best things that has happened, the most positive things that happened in the last 24 hours. Now, it could be small. It could be this great burrito you had at a restaurant. It could be that warm cup of coffee. Okay, here we go. We got spent morning with the boys, had friend over with kiddos. Brittany said that for us. Emily, you said Chipotle. There we go. We have dinner. Oh, wow. Husband put up some shelves. That's huge. We have Nikki. Wow, you are flying in. Okay, these are great. I love this. Darla said, a friend returned my call. You know what? That's great. I love that. Those are little things that make a big difference. The weather warmed up. Buyers got the new contract. So these are amazing. These are amazing. So as you're typing these things in, now I don't know what's going on. I don't see you smiling, but chances are when you just read these things, there's a mood boost. You sit up a little bit taller, a smile goes on your face. Even as you're typing these things in, you're going back and you're remembering these things. About 7 years ago, I'm teaching a group of wounded warriors. So I was working in Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas. And the group that I had the chance to work with were the units called the Warriors in Transition, but they're called the Wounded Warriors outside of the military. Now, these are soldiers who have been through incredible amounts of adversity. I was teaching a course on confidence and tools on how to be more confident. Now, the great majority of these soldiers did not want to be in the class. They did not want to be there. They're forced to be there. And I get it. It's not fun to be in a place that you are forced to be in, even if it's going to be beneficial. But there was one soldier in particular who was all about it. He participated, he shared stories, he gave examples, he had this energy to him that he just lit up the entire room. I was so inspired by this gentleman that I walked up to him during a break and I said, "How do you do it? How are you so darn positive?" And he smiled and he said, "Sir, well, I wasn't always this way. It was a decision that I made." I said, "Okay, well, what's the story?" He goes, "Years ago, when I was downrange in Afghanistan, I was leading my troops. I was leading my group, and as I was walking down the street, I noticed something shiny on the floor. I go to dust it off with my foot, and the next thing I remember is waking up in the hospital. I looked down at my body, and this shiny thing ended up being a bomb. It blew up and took off both of my legs, my left arm, and my left shoulder." He said, "I was devastated. And for months and months, he sat there thinking of terrible thoughts, thoughts that no human should be thinking about. And he was gone. He went to some very, very dark places. And he ends up telling me that he came to a point in his life where he had to make a life decision. He said, I can no longer control the past. I can't control what happened to me, but I can control what I do moving forward. And I need to control my attitude." And he said, from that moment, laying in the hospital bed with no legs and no left arm and no left shoulder, I made a decision that I was going to have a good attitude. And so I said, he goes, "Every single day I wake up and I leave my house, I look into that mirror at myself," and he says, "It could always be worse. It could always be worse." And I looked at him and out of respect, and I said, "No disrespect, but out of curiosity, how, my friend, how could it be worse?" And he looks at me and he puts a broad smile on his face and he goes, "Well, sir, at least I'm right-handed." And we all gather around, we're all laughing. He goes, "No, I'm serious. I could fish, I could draw, I could do a lot of different things now." And he was excited about his legs and his arm that were going to come in, his prosthetic legs and arm that he was so excited about. Here's principle and tool number one, high performance tool: hunt the good stuff. Look for the good every single day. As human beings, we are biologically wired for negativity bias. It's easy to be negative on yourself. It's easy to be bad, to be mad at yourself. It's easy to compare yourself to other people. It's easy to compare yourself to your old self. I used to be able to do this. I used to be able to do that. If you want to just make yourself sad and angry and hinder your performance, you can do that because all of these negative thoughts will start to fill your mind. Now, if you practice every single day identifying something you're grateful for, identifying something that you're good at, identifying people in your life who bring out the best in you, identify opportunities to learn, if you stop and spend time to do this, something cool is going to happen. You're going to flex those optimistic muscles. And your brain is now going to scan your environment every single day, looking for the bright spots. Now, what I'm not saying is the bright spots is to ignore the bad, is to ignore the negative. I'm not saying that to have toxic positivity and just everything is awesome, everything is great. No, that is not what I mean. What I mean is that there is some good. There is some silver lining in any bad. And part of hunting the good stuff is being able to identify what you're going to do about it. What are you going to do? What action are you going to take? That in and of itself is hunting the good. And so if you find yourself getting kind of pulled away and your mind pulling you into negativity, pause, comb over your memory, and identify what the good was. And so that's high performance tool number one. High performance tool number two is a bundle of tools. It's more of a mindset more than anything. When I work with the greatest athletes and performers and leaders and WWE wrestlers and real estate agents in the world, there's something that separates them from everybody else. And it's called the growth mindset. The growth mindset. Now, you've probably heard about the growth mindset before. This derives from the research out of Stanford, and she's one of my favorite researchers. Her name is Dr. Carol Dweck, and they're called It's the difference between the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. Now, we'll start with the fixed mindset. If you think about something that's fixed in the ground, if you think about something that's fixed, it doesn't move. That means it doesn't change. These are those people who are fixed in their ways. I cannot change. He cannot change. She cannot change. It will never change. Now, the opposite of that is the growth mindset. These are people who generally have this umbrella of belief that I can change. I am a work in progress. I can get better, I can evolve, and so can somebody else. So can my kids, so can my spouse, so can other people. My circumstance can grow and evolve. This is critical. Now, here's the question. What does that look like in practice? The growth mindset is based on 5 traits. 5 traits. Number one, learn from failure. We live in a world where it is so easy to fail and then beat up on yourself and say, well, I guess that's not for me. Well, I guess it wasn't meant to be. That's the fixed mindset. The growth mindset person, when they fail, they use it as an opportunity to learn. They use it as an opportunity to get better. One of my favorite stories about this is a woman named Sara Blakely. Now, some of you may have heard this name before. Sara Blakely is the first female CEO billionaire, first female CEO billionaire in the history of planet Earth, as we know of. And she's the founder of a company called Spanx. Now, some of you may know what that is. Some of you don't know what that is. You can Google it. You can find out what that is. But her story is amazing. I heard her getting interviewed one day, and you can go look this up. Look up Sara Blakely thoughts on failure. And the question was asked to her, how are you so successful? And she said, well, it's my mindset around failure. And the researcher or the interviewer was intrigued, like, what do you mean? And she tells the story. When me and my brother were young, we would go to school, and we would come home from school. Our dad would ask us a very unique question. The question that our dad would ask us is, in what did you fail today? Or in other words, how did you fail today and what did you learn? Every single day, Dad would ask Sara and her brother that question. And so they would come home and they would pretty much celebrate their failures with their dad. Oh, I failed this way. I failed this way. And she even goes on to say, when I came home and I told my dad, well, I didn't fail today, Dad. Yay. Dad would be like, well, I mean, guess you didn't try today. I guess you didn't push your limits today. And she thought, that's interesting. So she got comfortable. She built this mindset. I need to keep getting out of my comfort zone or expand my comfort zone to fail because that's how I learned. And now she's a multi-billionaire. Again, there's a lot of other reasons why she's a billionaire, but she attributes her willingness to lean into failure and to learn from failure, which is the mother of all characteristics when it comes to the growth mindset. So learn from failure, number one. Number 2 character trait is to embrace obstacles, leaning into adversity. You can tell someone has the growth mindset because they see the hard thing and they say, I'm going to do that thing. I'm going to go do it. The fixed mindset is opposite. The fixed mindset is the person who says, oh, that's hard. No, give me the easy route. Give me the easy way. I want to keep it as easy. Why? Because I don't want to fail. Because if I fail, then that means I am a failure. Growth mindset, they say, let me do the hard thing because even though the odds are likely that I might fail, I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to update my information. I'm going to update my knowledge. And so number 2, in terms of the second character trait for the growth mindset, is to embrace obstacles. Number 3, give your best effort. Now, this could be a tricky one because your best effort, you might be thinking immediately, well, what if I'm tired? What if I'm sad? What if I have other things going on in my life? Here's something so important to remember, that your best is going to look different from day to day. Part of this is invoking self-compassion and to know that you can't be 100% every single day. You're not a robot. You're not a superhuman who can go out there and be the best version 100% every single day. What I mean by giving your best every day is give the best of what you've got that day. If you're at 70%, because maybe your child was sick last night and you stayed up with your son or your daughter and you're exhausted, you only got 2 hours of sleep. Instead of beating up on yourself for only being at 70%, focus on the 70% you do have instead of the 30% you don't have. Now, a corollary principle to this as well is where we can start to take our foot off the gas is, let's say you do feel 100%. Where the fixed mindset people take their foot off the gas are two places in particular. And let's just say this. The best way to experience this is when you're playing board games with your families. I don't know if you've ever seen this happen before in the home. You're playing board games or you're watching your children or play board games, or just go back when you were a kid and played board games. The kid who is losing by a lot, it's not even close. They read the writing on their wall that they're not going to win. What happens to their effort level? Goes down. Why? Because they think, what's the use? I can try as hard as I can and I'm still not going to succeed. I'm still not going to hit my goals. And so their effort drops. Now, the other side of that is the other one. Let's say the person who's winning by a lot, dominating, you hit your goal already. You're halfway through the month and you already hit your goal. What do we have the tendency to do? Oh, I hit my goal. Effort goes down. I already hit it. We take our foot off the gas. And so that the growth mindset says, I don't care if I'm not going to hit it. I don't care if I already hit it. I'm going to give the best I have today. Focus on your effort. Let the results take care of themselves. Number 4 is to seek critical feedback. This is so important. One day I was with an NFL team and I was at practice and I was watching some of these football receivers going through the drills or getting ready to play against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots at that time. And I was watching this practice, and by the way, Brady did what he did. He's Brady, and so we lost to Tom Brady. However, leading up to that game against the Patriots, I was watching the receiving corps, and they were going through the drills, top speed, giving their absolute best. Now, an interesting thing happened. The coach was giving great praise, great job, good feet, good route, good hands. That a kid. All positive. And one of the receivers looks at him and he goes, are you going to make us better or what? And the coach was like, what do you mean? He goes, everyone tells us we're doing good. All of our millions of fans tell us we're doing good. We're always getting all this. Coach, we're NFL football players. Help us get better. What do we need to improve? And from that moment on, the coach was saying, oh, work on this, work on this, work on this. And the receiving corps was like, there you go. That is going to help us get better. If you want to have the growth mindset, rather, you want to find people who can give you that critical feedback, that people who can give you tweaks on how to improve. Now, we can do another webinar on how to receive feedback, how to give feedback. That's a completely different topic. And here's another thing. It's not just embrace critical feedback. Notice the key word, seek critical feedback. It's hard to receive it. And for those of you who are in leadership positions, it's hard to even give it sometimes because you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But be that kind of person who calls up your mentor, who calls up your boss, who goes to somebody you value and say, hey, give me feedback on this thing. This is where I think I need to get better. That's the one thing I love about these elite athletes. They're constantly poking holes in each other's performances and their tools and their skills. And funny thing happens, they get better as a result. And last but not least, character trait number 5 for the growth mindset is learn from the success of others. The opposite of that, the fixed mindset, they are threatened or jealous by the success of others. Sometimes when somebody else succeeds, that means we interpret it as I'm a failure. Look at her. She hasn't been doing this as long as I have, and she's more successful. Look at him. He doesn't work as hard as I do. He doesn't post as much as I do, but he's more successful. Instead of having the fixed mindset and be jealous or envious or resentful for the success of other people, what we need to do is a pause and to say, what can I learn from her? What can I learn from him? How can they make me better? Hey, is there anything I can pull from them that I can apply to myself? And so there you have it. Peak performance or high performance tool number 2 is to adopt the growth mindset by adopting these 5 character traits. Number 1, learn from failure. Number 2, embrace obstacles. Number 3, give your best effort. Number 4, seek critical feedback. And number 5, learn from the success of others. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, wow, this is awesome, Justin. I wish my kids could listen to this. Or I wish my group could, somebody else needs to hear this. Somebody might be asking the question, this is great. Is there a way, how do I cultivate the growth mindset in my family? How do I cultivate the growth mindset in the people I lead? Well, it's funny you ask that because Dr. Carol Dweck has a suggestion. Here it is. I want you to imagine a child comes home from school with an A on her test, on her math test. She comes home and she says, Mommy, look at this. I have an A. Daddy, I have an A. And you look at the test and you say, do you know why you got an A? Why, Dad? Why, Mom? And you say, because you're so smart. Because, wow, you're just so brilliant. You're so good at math. Oh, just because you're my child. That's why. You have our math genes in you. You're just like your mom, or you're just like your dad. You're just like this. That right there can subtly nudge someone in right into the fixed mindset. Now you might be wondering, oh, shoot, I do that all the time. This is telling our kids that they're great athletes because they're a beast. They're good at this because they're beautiful, or because they're strong, or because of all these things, which is inherently, you look at that, you're like, that doesn't sound bad. It doesn't sound bad at all. Now, I'm not here to tell people what to do and how to do what they do, but what the research is saying that subtly that can nudge someone towards the fixed mindset simply because, let's say that son or daughter's taking the test, another test, and it's a little bit more difficult. Now it's more difficult, and they're not as confident. They don't know, and they're taking this test, and now they're thinking to themselves, and it's hard for them, and they get a bad grade on it, and they're thinking to themselves, I guess I'm not smart. I guess I don't have the family genes. I guess I'm not beautiful, or whatever it may be. Now you might be thinking, what's a better way to do it? Praise the process. Now when that child comes home and shows you that grade, instead of saying you got this good grade because you were smart, you say you got this good grade because of the great notes that you took, because of all the hard work that you put in, because all of your time with the tutor, because of the effort you put in the homework, because you spent hours doing the study guide. I saw you going over that. Now you're praising the process. You're praising the effort that he or she has put in. And so you can do this even with yourself. When you have a great month at work, instead of saying, oh, I'm the best real estate agent, I'm a great leader, you look at the process. Look at all the work I put in. Look at all the reading I did. Look at all the studying I did. Look at all the time I spent with my people. As you praise the process, that will help people cultivate the growth mindset. So there we have it. We have two high performance tools. We have number 1, hunt the good stuff, and number 2, cultivate the growth mindset. Number 3 is something that we use quite often. Now, this is something that is not magical. It is not rocket science, but it's a very important principle we need to remind ourselves of over and over again. One of the best illustrations of this principle takes place, I heard from a Navy SEAL. Now, this Navy SEAL, he was a commander of the Navy SEALs, and they're known, for those of you who have the Navy SEALs here in the United States, they're the best of the best. They're the elite of the elite. We're grateful to have them on our side. They're the best who protect our country. Now, there's one Navy SEAL in particular who goes on to say that he had a weakness that was hindering his ability to lead his team. And this weakness is a weakness that I wouldn't say it's a weakness, but it's something that maybe some people on this call have as well. His fear of heights. Here we have this Navy SEAL who is doing these incredible missions, but he's terrified of heights. And he thought, you know what? I need to kick this. I can't be so scared of heights. I need to lean into it. So he does. He buys the ticket to Las Vegas, Nevada, not to go gamble his way to over fears, but to go rock climbing. So he goes rock climbing in Las Vegas, Nevada, and his rock climbing instructor is a gentleman who is nothing like him. He is crosses T's, dots his I's, very professional, very attention to detail, very Navy SEAL. And his instructor was complete opposite, loose, easy going. What's up, dude? Even the vernacular, even the language he spoke with was just so nonchalant. And so he talked about how different that was for him. But nonetheless, this is an expert rock climber who he needs to respect. And so he's climbing up the rock, leaning into his fear, and he's going through it. He gets halfway, and wouldn't you know it, worst case scenario happens. He is frozen. All of a sudden, he's paralyzed. He can't get through it. He can't move a muscle. His instructor starts coming down, nonchalant, and he asks the Navy SEAL, "What's up, dude?" And the Navy SEAL's like, "What do you mean, what's up, dude?" He goes, "What's up? What's going on? How you doing?" He goes, "Well, I'm stuck." And he starts to look down, the Navy SEAL does, and the instructor goes, "Whoa, whoa, 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 dude. Why are you looking down? Don't need to look down. Looking down is not going to help you." And the Navy SEAL starts to look up and goes, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. Why are you looking up? There's no need to look ahead to the pain. See how far you have to go. Why are you looking up?" And he starts looking around out to the Las Vegas Strip and looking at the instructor. He's like, why are you looking out there? You're not going to gamble your way to the top. Don't look at me. I'm not going to help you. And so the Navy SEAL asks him, he says, "So what do I do?" And this instructor gives him the commands that this Navy SEAL will not forget for the rest of his life. He goes on to use this advice throughout his life in everything he does. His instructor tells him, "Just focus on your 3-foot world, man. Just focus on your 3-foot world." And the instructor says, "What the heck is my 3-foot world? What are you even talking about?" He says, "Your 3-foot world is whatever you can control. It's your next grip. Find your next grip and just focus on that." And this Navy SEAL focused on his 3-foot world all the way to the top. Your 3-foot world is essentially everything you can control. There are so many things you cannot control, things that keep you up at night, the past, the future, other people, the economy, all of these things you have no control over. But the things you try to control but can't end up controlling you. So what I would like you to type in the chat box, is one thing. What is one thing that you have 100% control over given your current circumstances? What is in your 3-foot world that you have 100% control of? And let them flow through. Look at this. They are flowing. Wow, what an active group. You are all ready to rock and roll. Look at this, how I step my actions, how I start my morning, how I spend my time. I love it. What I eat, my mindset, drinking water. These are beautiful. These are beautiful. One of the things that we do in the elite performance world is we have them identify these things. So there's a simple activity that we do. We make 2 lists, 2 simple lists. The first list we make is a list of things that you have no control over, but are constantly on your mind. And the reason we make that list and we put it on paper, because a lot of times when they're in your mind and they're floating around, it takes up valuable cognitive real estate. You only have limited capacity and limited attention span in your mind. So when you spend your time worrying about something, especially something that you can't control, it's taking up space over things you can control. And so what we do is we write it down so that you can look at your thoughts instead of through your thoughts. So you write down all of these things that you have no control over. And so then on the other side, you want to write down things you have absolute control over, things you have that you can control. Now, mind you, that list that you can control is going to be a lot shorter than a list of the things you cannot control. Now, let me give you a little of the neuroscience behind this and why this is so important. Now, what this does, it serves as a priming mechanism. Now, what a priming mechanism is, it's simply an opportunity where the concept is name it to tame it. Name it to tame it. When you can name a thought, you turn down the volume of its power over you. You don't eliminate it. We need to get rid of the thought like, I need to no fear, no negativity. No, that's not realistic. No anxiety, no worries. Like, no, we're not robots. You're going to have these feelings of doubt, of negativity. You're going to have them. But instead of blaring at a 10, can we turn it down to a 9? Can we turn it down to an 8? Can we turn it down to a 5? And so think about turning down the volume on these thoughts rather than unrealistic thinking to yourself. Eliminate them altogether. Now, here's the cool thing. When you write down and label these thoughts in your mind, here's the cool thing. Whenever they start to float into your mind again, you can shine a spotlight on it, which is one of the mechanisms of attention. And we talked about it with Jennie about the 3 systems of attention. Again, this is the science behind it. One of the systems is the signaling, the alerting system. It's like a flashlight. Boom, you'll shine your flashlight on it. Now, here's the cool thing. All you have to do is just say, I see you. I notice you. You don't have to push it away. You don't have to, because the things you resist persist. It's called ironic processes. If I tell yourself, don't think about an elephant, don't think about an elephant, what are you going to think about? You're going to think about an elephant, because our mind sees in pictures. It doesn't see the word don't. And so you just point your flashlight at it and you see it, and then you just take a deep breath and you can smile at it. Now, what you're telling it is like, hey, I'm not afraid of you. I see you. Go in and do your thing. And then you take your flashlight and you point it right back on the things that you can control. So essentially, you've created an implementation intention, which is, if I get this thought, then I'm gonna notice it. I'm gonna name it. I'm gonna smile at it, and I'm gonna focus my attention on what I can control. This is what we talk about with the best athletes, the highest performers in the world. This is what it looks like to think on purpose with purpose. The more you plan for adversity and for that internal dialogue, the more you plan, the better equipped you are to respond to adversity. We talk about this. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. That's the great philosopher Mike Tyson. But now you want to have these plans for getting punched in the face. What are you going to do when you get bombarded with these thoughts? So now, this is called it. So principle number 3 is focusing on what you can control. A corollary principle to this as well is to, instead of listen to yourself, talk to yourself. We discuss this all the time. You need to embrace the power of positive self-talk. The analogy I always give is that of a cup. Okay, I just happen to have a cup right by, luckily. Excuse me, it's a little bit dirty. And so I have this cup. Now I want you to imagine, that this cup holds, let's just say for example purposes, let's just say it holds 10 ounces, 10 ounce cup. Let's say I pour a gallon of water into this 10 ounce cup. Okay, I'm gonna ask you 3 dumb questions. If I pour an entire gallon into this 10 ounce cup, how many ounces are going to be in this 10 ounce cup? The answer, surprisingly, thank you, Diane. Yes, 10 ounces. Funny story. I have done this in front of so many people, and I always get so embarrassed. I feel like secondhand embarrassment when people shout out 1 gallon. I'm like, no, it's only 10 ounces. You'd be surprised how many people shout out a gallon, and there might be some people on this call, and that's okay. It's normal. Okay, so only 10 ounces. Dumb question number 2, why only 10 ounces? Oh, it's because that's as much as it holds. Dumb question number 3, where is the rest of the water? All over my lap. Exactly. So the analogy that we give is this cup represents your mind. It represents my mind. And so basically, whatever you fill your mind with, you take up space. We talk about that precious real estate. So if you allow this negativity bias, if you allow the doubt and the negativity and the worry and the fear to creep in, to fill your mind, to fill your attention, then all of a sudden, when the creativity wants to come in, when the positivity wants to come in, when productive thoughts want to come in, it's going to be a lot more difficult. Not because it doesn't exist, not because opportunities aren't there, it's because you can't see them because there's no room. But if you purposely fill your mind with productive thoughts, with positive thoughts, with effective thoughts, with creativity, with plans, with your values, with your gratitude, then when negativity wants to come in, it's going to be a lot more difficult, not impossible, but a lot more difficult, not because it doesn't exist, but because there's no room. And so principle number 4 is to, instead of listen to yourself, talk to yourself. Program your mind with the thoughts and with the words and the phrases that you want to say to yourself. Because sometimes the things that we say to ourselves are so hurtful. Our friends would never say those things to us. You would never say those things that you're saying to yourself to anybody who you value. But what's interesting is we'll say it to our own self sometimes. Talk to yourself instead of listen to yourself. And so there we have a couple of things. Number 1, we have, help me remind me, what did we talked about? What are we talking about? I'm trying to remember. I've changed the hunt for the good stuff. There we go. Hunt the good stuff. Number 1. Number 2, we talked about the growth mindset. Number 3, we talked about focus on your 3-foot world or what you can control. And number 4, don't listen to yourself, talk to yourself. And number 5, habit of a high performance mindset. This will be the last one before we go into some question and answers. We'll have Jennie and Patrick lead that. The next one is, if you watch these elite performers, you're going to notice something about them. They embrace the boredom of consistency. And let's say that again. Embrace the boredom of consistency. That is number 5. Elite performance is boring. A lot of time, it is not the highlight, cool, amazing things that you see on social media all the time. It is not the glitz and the glamour of trophies and rings and celebrations. It's the quiet, mundane, boring things you do when nobody else is watching, over and over and over again. It's reading that book to update yourself on that knowledge that you grind through sometimes. It's spending time doing the administrative stuff, creating a process for yourself so that you can streamline your administrative stuff, easy for me to say, from time to time. Remember, you sign up for the hard road the moment you decide to go after your dreams. That's the moment. It is supposed to be hard. It is going to be difficult. I think a lot of times we look at the end result of people and say, oh, I want that. But what we don't see is we see the front stage results, but we don't see the backstage work. We don't see what they do when no one else is watching. And so the opportunity I have is to watch these top level performers, these men and women, the food that they eat, the way they sleep, the breaks that they take, the way they fill their minds, the rest and recovery, all these tedious massages and workouts they do to strengthen tiny muscles that we don't even know the names of for hours, and rolling out and stretch routines, the boundaries that they create around their lives so that they can be in tip-top shape. Embrace the boredom of consistency. Now you may be wondering, what does that mean? How do I implement that? What does the practical use of that look like? It comes down to your routines. What are your habits or your routines like? Have you created a system that produces the outcomes that you truly want? Wherever you see consistency, a system is in place. Going back to Tom Brady, there's a reason he's been doing these. He looks the way he does, he acts the way he does, he has this. There's a system that he has. If you look at these elite performers over a long period of time, there's a system in place. My question for you is, what is your system? What is your process? And a good place to look, maybe to start, is the beginning of your day. We have 86,400 seconds a day. It doesn't matter who you are, where you live, how much money you have, what gender you are, what ethnicity you are, what industry you're in. Every single human being has 86,400 seconds a day. The thing that separates the best from the rest are how you use that finite resource. How are you using that time on purpose, with purpose? And so what I like to do is I like to encourage people to establish a win the morning routine. Now, I want to say right out the gates, I am not saying wake up at 2 in the morning to grind and take pictures of your watch and say, I'm waking up at 2 a.m. club, 4 a.m. club. No, I am team sleep. I am team get your sleep in as optimal as you possibly can. And when you wake up, I'm not here to judge when you wake up. Whatever time you wake up, when you wake up, it's waking up on purpose, with purpose. In that first hour, how do you choose to wake up on purpose? Like a rocket launching into space, how do you launch your day? Do you need to work out? Do you need to meditate? Do you need to go water your plants? Do you need to spend some cuddle time with your kids and your family? It's essentially doing what you do on purpose, with purpose. Now, if I were to ask you, if you were to have a terrible morning, if you were to set your morning up for a disaster, what would it look like? Some of you might say, constantly hitting the snooze button, or grabbing my phone and just surfing TikTok or Instagram or whatever, or just laying in bed doing nothing. I don't know. I honestly don't know. My invitation is to ask yourself, if I were to win the morning and set myself for success for the rest of the day, what does that look like? Now, it might take some practice. It might take some iterations. You might not know. It might be, and what you did last year might change now. Like everything changes. And here's my only tips. Here are my tips. You want to keep it simple, keep it very simple, and you want to keep it flexible. Those are kind of like siblings right there, because sometimes you want to be able to do it at your home. You want to be able to do it during the summer. You want to be able to do it during the winter. You want to be able to do it when you're traveling in the hotel. And now I'm not saying you have to be on all the time, but you don't want to be able to give yourself excuses. Oh, it's too cold outside, I can't do it. Oh, we're at my parents' house or my in-laws' house, I can't do it. Mind you, it shouldn't be a chore. These things, it should be something like, oh, this is beneficial to me. I enjoy my morning routine. It gets my mind in the right place. It boosts my mood. You want to keep it nimble. And here's another thing. You want to keep it consistent. And also you want to be adaptable. Sometimes sometimes you're going to read, instead of reading 15 minutes, you might only be able to read one page. That's okay. Forgive yourself. Forgive you instead of beating up on yourself and say, no, I have to read this. No, you don't. No, you don't. Just, hey, you're going to be all right. Just roll. And last but not least, adapt to change, and knowing that what used to work for you might not work for you right now. Maybe you did meditate for 15 minutes a day, and don't force yourself to have to do that just because you did it in the past. Maybe it's 2 minutes now. Maybe it's 1 minute now. Maybe it's not at all. Maybe you're like, you know what? I don't need to meditate anymore. Okay, great. Whatever you need. And so there you have it. Those are the principles or some of the tools. We can have hours and hours of this, but I hope there is something in there that resonated with your people, Jennie and Patrick. But yeah, I'll leave the rest of the time for some questions.
Yeah, awesome. Wow. That was pretty darn amazing. And I think, Patrick, did you have a question?
I have a question. It almost ties into the one that was thrown in the chat. So I heard this saying, tall trees get struck by lightning. And so when you think of that, if you're going after your dreams, you're going to fail, you're going to get knocked down. And then there's critical feedback. And then there's whatever you want to call them, haters, dream stealers. You deal with a lot of people who are put to perform on a big stage, and they will get critical feedback and they will get haters. How do you differentiate those from a mental standpoint so that they can get back to what they need to do so they can win the game?
Great question. I cannot tell you some of the horrible things that people write to these athletes. Sickening, absolutely sick. In addition to, not only are you a bad pitcher, like we don't have to go there. Anyway, to your point, you hit the nail on the head. There is a lot of noise out there. So my suggestion to anybody out there, so another concept that we talk about is our fountains and drains. Fountains and drains. I talk about this all the time. The problem with analogies sometimes is they have their limitations. And so we can pick this apart, but please, just for the sake, and the reason I say this is because it's easy to pick this analogy apart. I get it. This is not foolproof. But what I will say this, here's the imagery. Fountains are people who are fountains of positivity. They're fountains of joy. They're fountains of happiness. Now, here's another thing. You can also have people in your life who are fountains of peace. They're fountains of calm. They're fountains of logic. They're fountains of critical thinking. They're fountains of fun. And so of quiet. So don't think that fountains need to be these high energy, motivating people. No. Some of the people who you need in your life are so quiet and introverted. And just when you're around them, you love it because you feel like there's just peace to them. So surround yourself with these fountains. Now, someone might be thinking, well, Justin, I live alone. I just have my cat. I just have my dog. I have my plants. Well, they could be sources of fountains as well. But here's another thing. You can have a fountain in the form of somebody you follow on social media. Maybe you don't know them. They don't know you, but you just like their vibe. They just help you out. You can have a fountain in the form of a podcast host, in the form of a musician, in the form of an artist, in the form of an author, a writer. Just finding these people who just really help you keep things in perspective. Now, the opposite of that are these drains. These are people who just they have a problem for every solution. They complain. It's making excuses, and it's just everything is bad, horrible, this and that. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Justin, what if I'm related to one of those people? What if I'm like, that's it in my home? That's a reality. That's absolutely a reality. And so that's where it comes down to ratios. And so there's a lot of things to talk about that. But what I would say is establish your fountains, spend as much time in your mental cocoon listening to these voices that help you the most. Now, I don't share these fountains and drains to be able to, for anyone, myself included, to say, oh, he's a fountain, she's a fountain, oh, he's a drain, she's a drain. We all have fountain and drain moments. I can't tell you, like, we are all drains at moments, right? Like, we can bring our family members and say, again, I can use it. My kids can tell you when I'm hungry and I haven't slept, yeah, dad's a drain. Dad, I am not a happy camper. I could be like disgruntled, and like we all go through that. I'm not trying to judge or label human or anybody, but to surround yourself with people who bring their best out of you. And so to answer that question succinctly, it's yes, you're going to have that noise. How are you going to respond and protect yourself and create these boundaries so that you can fill your cup and identify? But it starts with awareness. It starts with awareness. Pay very close attention to how people affect your mood, your energy, your confidence, your motivation, and notice it. Here's another principle to this as well. Can you all still hear me? Okay. Here's another principle as well. You might follow certain people on social media who are great people. They have done nothing wrong. They're not toxic. They're not drains. They're actually maybe even your friends, and they're great. But every time you see their account, it kind of makes you feel less than. It kind of makes you feel like bad about yourself. But it's not them. It's you. Right now, you're like, shoot, like they're a good person. But when I see all the success they're having, you can mute them. You don't have to unlike them. Mute them, because you might be like, okay, I just need. They're wonderful. I love them. They're great. But right now, in my current state, that actually isn't helping me seeing their happy, joy, all great family. They're a great spouse. They have great kids. They have a lot of money. They're so successful. I'm happy for them, but that doesn't help me in my situation right here. I'm going to mute them just so I don't have to trip over that, because it kind of it creates a little friction for me. I just wanted to mention that.
I love that. And that's kind of, Patrick did mention the growth mindset. And so Tamer has asked, so what's the difference between learning from your failures and then seeking critical feedback? How do you identify who to seek the feedback from?
I love this question. That's why I think mentors you have to be very strategic with who you reach out to. You need to identify, according to yourself, what are certain aspects you admire in certain people, to get feedback from that person with that. So if you are going to get advice on how to be a great public speaker, or to present very well, go find people in your situation who you're like, you speak really well. Pick their brain. Now, that person might not be the same person who gives you advice on how to cold call someone. Then you go to somebody else on, hey, you're really good at cold calling. Let me go here. We have to get away from the one-stop shop for mentors. This mentor is good at this and good at this and good at that. No, I have multiple people who I consult with. This is my person to go to for relationships. This is my person to go to for giving me thinking logically. This is my person to go to on how to be more positive. And so to identify, where do you want feedback and who is the best person to do that? Quite frankly, there are some people giving feedback to other people, and they're not even good at that thing themselves. And so it makes it very, very difficult. And so again, it's very nuanced and very, very hard, but it's a great question.
All right. I got to ask Brittany's question here. She says, what would Justin share on the topic of expectations? So maybe having expectations of others and controlling them, or that.
Yeah. The thing about expectations is they can set you up for failure. And so knowing that expectations it's forecasting the future. You don't know. And so when you set expectations, you need to calibrate them as much as you possibly can. The two things people underestimate with expectations for goals is how long it's going to take and how hard it's going to be. We have present bias, meaning that we don't account for our future self being wishy-washy and not following through. Or we have these high expectations and then people let us down. Now, I'm not saying expect worst case scenario, but what I am saying is conduct a pre-mortem, which means that whatever expectations you have, identify what are worst case scenarios. Okay, if he doesn't do this, how am I going to respond? If she is late, okay, what am I going to do? If you could account for as much friction down the road as possible, expect adversity, expect things to go, but not only expect the bad, but also how you're going to respond to it. And then how do you create processes early on to navigate around it? You create a margin of safety, which basically, I know we're running out of time here pretty soon. The analogy I like to use is on US highways. When we're on US highways, I don't know if you've ever experienced this. When you're driving, when you start to veer off on a highway, a long strip, you run over something called a rumble strip, where it goes, brrr, it like vibrates the car and snaps you right back. The rumble strips are margins of safety that the highway sets up to account for drivers getting distracted and falling asleep. They set it as a protection mechanism that wake up. Oh, shoot, you're right. I need to wake up. You need to set up rumble strip for your expectations. What are your rumble strips along the way to wake you up and to help you out when you start to veer off, so that you can refocus your attention?
I love that. And I just want to say, I know we're running out of time here, so I'll email you this last question, which is, and you can get me a good old list of your favorite books and what you're reading right now. Because I bet I watched your your YouTube channel on how you pick books. And so I just want to thank you for your time. And clearly you can tell the people that are here with us, they have a growth mindset. They are highly driven people. And I think what I'm taking away from it is that you've given us permission to give ourselves grace, because we are drivers and determined professionals and business people, and all strive to have this amazingly abundant mindset. And so thank you for that. And I appreciate you. Any final words before you hop off?
No, I mean, no, this was great. Just pick one thing. I'd say yes, I do. Pick one thing and go work on it. Find the one thing that you liked from today and just do one thing and focus, see what it feels like.
I love it. And thank you guys. If you're not already in Your Journey with Jennie, the group on Facebook, ask to join, and we'll share all our notes, right, Justin?
You got it.
All right. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for hanging out and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see ya. Bye.